All right, so today we are going deep on a true cinematic classic,
Oh, yeah.
The Godfather. We are
Absolutely.
going to go way beyond an offer you can't refuse to unpack why this film is still considered a masterpiece almost 55 years later.
I think that's a great idea. And you've picked some interesting material to dive into.
Oh, yeah.
We've got excerpts from The Godfather's IMDb page.
Right.
So we'll be looking at hard facts,
Yeah.
audience reception,
Yeah.
even trivia.
It's really a gold mine.
It is.
So just a quick refresher for anybody who needs it. The Godfather is the story of an aging patriarch of a very powerful crime family
Mm-hmm.
and his reluctant son who gets pulled into that dark world.
Yeah. And speaking of powerful, The Godfather is currently sitting at number 2
Wow.
on IMDb's top 250 movies list.
Number 2.
That's pretty incredible.
That is incredible.
It shows that it still resonates with audiences.
Oh, yeah, big time. And
Yeah.
it was nominated for 31 Academy Awards.
Wow. You'd think it swept the Oscars.
You would.
But it actually only won 3.
Wow.
Which begs the question, what categories were so competitive that year?
Yeah, did they not know what they were doing?
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into a few of those nominations. One that stood out to me was Best Costume Design.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the film is visually stunning.
Mm-hmm.
All those dark colors,
Yeah.
impeccable period detail.
Absolutely. The costumes really transport you to that post-war era,
Yeah.
perfectly capturing the elegance and the power of the Corleone family.
Yes.
It's subtle, but it adds so much to the film's atmosphere.
It does. It's like each outfit is a character in and of itself.
I love that.
And speaking of characters, we can't talk about The Godfather without talking about Marlon Brando as Don Vito Corleone.
An iconic performance, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just his acting that was memorable.
Right.
Apparently, during the scene where Don Corleone is carried upstairs after returning home,
Okay.
Brando put weights under himself on the bed as a prank.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Imagine being tasked with lifting him.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Oh my God.
But that's Brando for you.
Oh, yeah.
Always keeping things interesting.
That's great. And speaking of interesting, there's a peculiar detail about Brando's credit in the film.
Oh.
His name appears without his character name,
Really?
just Marlon Brando.
Huh.
What do you think? Was that a power move?
I think so.
Was it a contractual thing?
It makes you wonder.
It really does. It makes you think about the behind-the-scenes dynamics and, like, was this the start of something?
Right, like did other actors try to follow suit?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And, of course, we can't forget Al Pacino's incredible performance
absolutely.
as Michael Corleone.
Yeah.
Talk about a transformation.
Oh my
He
God.
starts out as this idealistic war hero, seemingly detached from the whole family business.
Mm-hmm.
But then things take a really dark turn.
Yes.
Literally,
Totally.
the IMDb page mentions a goof where Pacino actually broke his cheekbone during filming.
I remember reading that. It was during that scene where he gets punched in the face.
Right.
And the injury resulted in a permanent black eye until he returned to America for surgery.
So for a significant portion of the film, he's sporting a real black eye.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Talk about method acting.
it really is.
Did he ever comment on how that injury might have impacted his performance?
It's fascinating, isn't it, that blurring of fiction and reality?
It is.
Unfortunately, I haven't come across any comments from Pacino about that.
Okay.
But it's a really great question.
It adds another layer to Michael's descent into the family business, right? That black eye becomes a visual reminder of the violence that is slowly consuming him.
And it all culminates in that chilling line of his.
Oh, yeah.
My father's no different than any powerful man, any man with power like a president or senator.
I get chills just thinking about it.
It's such a great line.
It is.
Because it reveals just how deeply Michael has been drawn into this family's world.
Yeah.
He's no longer the naive outsider.
Right. He becomes what he swore he would never be.
It's chilling, yes, but also there's a tragic irony to it, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Michael, now entrenched in power, seems to have completely lost sight of his earlier idealism.
That's such a good point. And that brings us to a central theme of The Godfather,
Okay?
the corrupting nature of power.
Absolutely. And where does that power reside? Largely within the family structure.
Right.
The Corleones operate like a dynasty, with loyalty and betrayal intertwined in this complex web.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like a Shakespearean drama playing out.
Oh, I like that.
In the world of organized crime, with
Right.
family ties, both strengthening and suffocating these characters.
That's a great comparison. And, you know, it's not just the men who are caught in this web of power.
Oh, that's true.
The women of The Godfather,
Yeah.
they also have to navigate this patriarchal world in some pretty fascinating ways.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on Kay
Right?
or Connie.
Yeah. What do you make of their roles?
I mean, Kay Michael's wife,
Yeah.
she represents a kind of innocence, at least initially, right?
At least at the beginning, yeah.
She's an outsider looking in,
Right.
horrified by the violence she witnesses.
Yeah, but over time, she kind of becomes more complicit,
Yeah, she does.
feeling a blind eye to protect her family.
It's the heartbreaking to watch her lose that initial idealism.
Yeah,
And then there's Connie,
right.
Don Corleone's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Her story's a whole other level of tragedy.
Oh, yeah, Connie's very much a product of her environment, surrounded by all these powerful men.
Right.
And she seeks love and validation within that framework,
Yeah.
even when it leads to pain and abuse.
Right. And it's almost like the film is commenting on the limited choices women had within this very patriarchal society. They're either trapped or forced to become complicit.
It definitely raises questions about the film's portrayal of women.
Yeah.
Some critics have argued that it reinforces traditional gender roles and doesn't give the female characters enough agency. What do you think?
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the film is a product of its time.
Sure.
And while it offers these glimpses into the complexities of these women's lives, it doesn't necessarily give them the same depth or development as some of the male characters.
I agree. It would have been interesting to see more of their internal strolls and motivations.
Right.
But let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about the critical reception of The Godfather.
Yeah.
We talked about the Oscars.
Right.
But what about other awards and reviews?
Well, it also won 3 Golden Globes,
Okay.
including Best Picture Drama.
Wow.
And it was praised by critics for the acting, the directing, the screenplay, the score.
Oh, the score by Nina Rota?
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
It is.
Haunting and beautiful. Perfectly capturing the mood and atmosphere.
It really does. It's become one of the most iconic film scores of all time. I mean, you hear those opening notes and you're instantly transported
to that world.
Yes. Were there any critics that had anything negative to say about the film?
Yeah, even with all that acclaim, there were some dissenting voices.
Okay.
Some critics found the violence a little excessive, and they questioned the film's romanticization of organized crime.
Right.
Which I can understand.
I can too. I mean, it's a violent film.
Yeah.
It doesn't shy away from the brutality of the Corleone family business.
No, it doesn't. But I think what makes the film so compelling is that it doesn't glorify that violence.
Right.
It shows the consequences, the toll it takes on everyone involved.
Exactly. It's not just a mindless action flick.
No.
It makes you think about moral complexities, choices people make when are caught up in that world.
Right.
And speaking of choices,
Okay.
one of the most fascinating aspects of this film is Michael's transformation.
Absolutely.
He starts out as this one son who seems destined for a life outside the family business. He's a war hero, seemingly idealistic.
Right.
But we see this facade just crumble as he gets pulled deeper and deeper into darkness.
It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck.
It is.
It's coming.
Right.
You can't stop it.
You can't. And there's that one scene after he's fled to Sicily where he tells, my father's no different than any powerful man.
Yeah.
He's trying to justify the family's actions. But you can see in his eyes that he's lost something.
He's trying to convince himself as much as Kay.
Yeah.
It's a pivotal moment.
It is.
Because it shows how far he's fallen.
And it brings us back to that question we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The corrupting nature of power.
Right.
Michael, in his pursuit of power,
becomes
the very thing he once despised.
And it's not just Michael.
No.
The whole Corleone family is caught in this cycle of violence and corruption.
Right.
It's like a Greek tragedy.
It is.
Where fate and ambition collide with these devastating consequences.
It's that blend of family drama, crime thriller, social commentary that makes this film so complex and enduring. But it's not a standalone story, is it?
No, it's not.
There's The Godfather Part 2.
Right.
Which delves even further into the family's history.
It's considered by many to be just as good, if not better, than the original.
Really?
Exploring the origins of Vito Corleone's rise to power.
Right.
Further chronicling Michael's descent into darkness.
Yeah.
It's a great sequel.
It's amazing how they managed to expand on the story without diminishing the impact of the first film.
Absolutely. And it just shows that the world of The Godfather is so rich that it can support these multiple layers of storytelling.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling we could spend hours unpacking all the nuances of this film.
I think that's what makes The Godfather so fascinating. It's a film that rewards multiple viewings, endless discussion, and interpretation.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Yeah.
Each layer revealing something new.
It really does.
And intriguing.
Yeah.
And you know what else is fascinating?
Is it?
Even beyond the story and the characters, it's the whole technical mastery of the film, the cinematography, the editing, the use of like light and shadow. It all comes together to create this really immersive, almost operatic experience.
Yeah, it's true. Francis Ford Coppola's direction is just masterful.
Oh, yeah.
The way he creates these incredibly tense but beautiful scenes, using those long takes, subtle camera movements.
It pulls you right into...
to draw you into that world.
Yeah.
Like, for example, that scene in the restaurant where Michael eliminates Sollozzo and McCluskey.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a masterclass in suspense building.
It is.
It really is.
The way the tension slowly ratchets up, the use of silence and sound, the finality of those gunshots, it's unforgettable.
It's so well done.
And the editing, I mean, the way the film jumps between different timelines and storylines,
right.
It could have been so confusing.
It could have been a mess.
But it's handled so seamlessly.
I know, it really is a testament to the skill of the editors.
Yep.
They weave together all these different threads
right.
into this cohesive and compelling narrative.
And you can't forget the impact of the music.
Of course not, Nita Rota.
Yes.
His score is just as much a character as any of the actors.
I agree 100%. I mean, it adds this whole other layer of emotion and depth that words alone couldn't convey.
For sure.
You know, those mournful melodies, the triumphant fanfares, the use of traditional Italian instruments, it all creates this rich tapestry of sound that perfectly complements the visuals.
I love that. And speaking of visuals, one thing that struck me while I was going through the IMDb page was the number of goofs listed for the film.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Pacino's black eye, but there are a bunch of others.
Yeah, like continuity errors, anachronisms.
I remember reading about one where there's like a car in the background.
Right.
That wouldn't have been manufactured until years later.
Right, exactly. But you know what? Those little imperfections, they don't detract from the film's power at all.
I agree.
If anything, they add a certain charm.
Totally. It reminds us that even a masterpiece like The Godfather is ultimately a human creation subject to the same flaws and limitations as anything else. And, it's those imperfections that make it feel real and relatable.
It's like those little cracks in a beautiful mosaic.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
They don't diminish the beauty. They enhance it.
They do.
They make it unique.
And that's what makes The Godfather such an enduring film.
I think so, too.
It's not just technically brilliant.
Right.
It's deeply human.
Yeah.
It explores those themes of family loyalty, ambition, betrayal.
Yes.
Those universal themes that resonate with audiences across generations.
It's a film that stays with you long after the credits roll.
For sure.
Makes you think, makes you feel, makes you question your own values.
And for those who haven't seen it yet,
yes,
I can't recommend it enough.
It's a must-see.
It is. It's a cinematic experience that everyone should have.
I agree.
And if you've seen it before,
maybe it's time for a rewatch.
It might be.
You know, there's always something new to discover.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. The Godfather, a film that demands to be seen,
absolutely
discussed, and revisited.
It's a timeless masterpiece.
It really is.
That continues to captivate and challenge audiences almost 55 years later.
So tell us what resonated most with you about The Godfather.
Yeah, was it the complex characters, the gripping story, the moral dilemma?
Or something else entirely?
Let us know.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. 60